Hey, welcome back. This is part 2 and I'm blocking in values again with my matte medium. Okay, so you see all the blotchiness that I'm getting on the skin at the moment? Yes, that could be because my paint was drying. But also the matte medium, I'm gonna put it on the materials list as optional because now that I'm much older and wiser. But okay, so I don't use this anymore in my paintings because the gloss glazing liquid just basically did everything I wanted it to do. And why not only buy the things that work rather than buying all the stuff, that doesn't work? And, but I wanted to try it out because I thought that even though I used the gloss glazing liquid in the past, I had this idea that by playing with your finishes, like matte versus your gloss, would create this illusion of a separation when you created your other layers. In a way it did, and I had a great success with another painting that I did, but not enough for me to continue using it. So that says a lot. The gloss glazing liquid ended up doing everything I needed it to do, including creating a really interesting separation between the layers. So from portrait number 1, I'm telling you right off the bat that if you're going to purchase any of the supplies on the list, the matte medium is optional. Okay, so what I'm doing at the moment is I'm using, it looks like a Filbert brush, and a Filbert brush really is just kind of similar to a flat brush, but it's rounded on the top, but it's wider and rounded. When I apply my paint on the skin, I use a patting motion. And what I mean by that is I rarely drag my paintbrush. Excuse me. I rarely drag my paintbrush. Instead, what I do to cover a big amount of surface area is kind of use a patting thing where I kind of go pat, 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 and pull it down that way. And the reason why I do that is because it kind of pushes the paint into the layers that you've already done without accidentally pulling up the paint from underneath. And I've had some problems where when I'm dragging my paintbrush on acrylic paint, that if I have too much water or too much medium, so the gloss glazing liquid or the matte liquid, you can potentially pull up the layers underneath. And not only that, but even, I guess I do the patting with my oil paintings as well. I think it just works really well with skin because you're kind of creating a gradient that is still smooth. And if you want it even smoother, while your paint is wet and after you pat in your paint like that, grab something called a blending brush or a mop brush. They're very soft at the end. And what I do is I'll take my Filbert brush, pat the paint in, and then I'll take a dry blender brush, which is very soft and fluffy. And while the paint is still wet, you can just go over it and soften it completely. So it blends your paint even more and makes your skin look very smooth. If I'm not using a Filbert brush, then I'm using a round brush or a liner brush for places like the eyes, nose, and mouth. And a liner brush creates very great lines, and that's why it's called a liner brush. It's very long, and you would use it by making sure you have a lot of medium added to it with a very small amount of paint, or a lot of you could use water as well, but keep in mind that you'll lose a little bit of the quality of the paint by watering it down, where matte medium continues to give you the quality you need, but will give you more transparency in your pigment. But anyhow, I use liner brushes and I use a round brush for any area where I need to pat in my details. And I'm doing that at the moment with my lips. Okay, as far as teeth go, for painting, you really do not want to make them super outlined. Instead, focus on your shadows. So because her lip is protruding out, it's going to cast a shadow onto the teeth. And doesn't that look kind of nice already by just having the local color in the background as her teeth? And then when we add darker values, like some darker shadows, it makes the teeth almost appear whiter. So I think, let's just see, but I might not do too much to those teeth. I might just kind of work on the shadows of the teeth, but really important to avoid making the lines. Really what we want to do is, like, you don't want black lines, you want a value that is just slightly darker than the teeth color to create a separation. This way it looks more natural. And to be completely honest, don't think of each tooth individually at first. Think of them as like a block that has like an arch, okay? So a block of, like, you know, pearly whites in an arch. And how does that arch look when it is wet? And when it curves, and when it hits light at one angle and maybe not the other angle. And what happens when your lip creates a shadow on that? Those are the things you really need to think about. If you're thinking it more as one single shape as opposed to a bunch of different ones, it's gonna be way easier for you to paint. And the reason why is you're only focusing on one subject as opposed to like tons, you know? And I do teeth more in the upcoming classes, especially portrait number 4. Yeah. Okay, so at the moment I'm starting to find my middle values, and now, like, you're probably wondering what is going on with our paint palette. It's all over the place, there's no organization. And you are absolutely right. So my paint palette looks like this when I'm just trying to get to a point where my gradients will, to be honest with you, at this point in time, I'm pretty happy with my underpainting. So all I'm doing is finding the places on the face that need a little bit of work. And that's why my paint palette looks like that. Not everything looked like it needed work. To give you a little bit of advice, just do a value scale every single time. This is kind of like how I normally work, but I tried really hard in this class to not do this too often for you guys, because it's way more organized and way easier to know exactly where you are if you just do your value scale on your paint palette every single time. Okay, same thing with how we did our face. The hair, I added my darkest layers, my darkest values first. And your underpainting, when you're still working with your local color only, you can go pretty high contrast. What I mean by that is high contrast means you have values that are either very white and very dark next to each other. And the reason why that's okay with your first layer is because you know that there's going to be more layers to follow. And each layer is going to be slightly transparent and slightly not transparent, I guess. So eventually down the line, your layers will soften. Okay, so at this point in time, I am letting my painting dry before I apply a clear leveling gel. And a clear leveling gel, essentially what it's supposed to do is give you a flat surface. So if any of your painting layers were not on the same level as other painting layers, if you applied the clear leveling gel, essentially it would make a flat surface. But I've had success with maybe 4 paintings using this gel, and then I had catastrophic results on other paintings, as you will see in Portrait 4. I'm putting an asterisk on this product on my materials list. It is optional. I am not using it anymore. You do not have to use it. Is it going to make your paintings better? No. Could it possibly ruin a painting? Yes. What is the benefit of it? Well, I told you the benefit before, but you can get the same result by using your gloss glazing liquid. But if you're someone who loves to see brush strokes, which I am not that person per se, like I really like a smooth surface, but if you're someone who wants brush strokes to be seen throughout your process, then definitely get this, because once it dries, whatever brush stroke you've made on there, because it is so thick, it will dry and not go away. I'll just leave that there. Okay, let's move on to our next video.